What's up, guys? It's Denise Salcedo. Welcome to Speak Now Pro Wrestling. I am so glad to be on here once again. Today is the November 9th edition, and today we're going to be talking WWE NXT 2.0. Now, I hope everything is good in terms of audio because prior to this stream, my whole entire system decided to break down. I literally had my emergency microphone with me. Google decided to log me out of everything, which was a nightmare, but I made it on here and we're here to talk about NXT. So thank you so much to literally everybody for your patience, and literally just everything happened right now. Someone who's asking what happened to my show intro. I didn't want to do my show intro today, and the reason for that is my audio has been a little bit funky, and I didn't want to have the whole thing happen where like I play my intro and everything's working and all of a sudden things are not working, because that's what happened to me last week. So I was afraid that that was going to happen again here today, but it looks like everything is okay for the most part. So let's go ahead and dive into the show, everyone. So NXT 2.0 has unfortunately it's been hit or miss. There's been certain weeks where I'm like, you know what? I'm feeling this new direction. I'm liking all of the new faces that we're seeing, etc. Right? But then there are other weeks where I'm just thinking to myself, oh my God, this is going nowhere. What am I watching? What are we doing? And I felt like this last week. Last week, I did not really care for for NXT. And then this week, I kind of feel the exact same way. Unfortunately, I'm just not feeling as invested in a lot of the things that I feel like I should be invested in. I currently am not feeling it. There were some things that I did like about NXT here today, and we'll talk about that momentarily, but I just got to say, like, for the most part, it is just a huge shift from the old NXT. And there are certain weeks where I'm like, okay, I can roll with this new direction of NXT 2.0. And there are just some weeks when I do not feel like I can roll with this new version of NXT 2.0. There are weeks when I think I see what they're going with and I could work with it. And there are other weeks where I'm just like, oh, this is not for me. Like, I'm really trying and this isn't for me. So it's kind of hit or miss. And there were some things on today's show where I'm not feeling so confident about, but we'll get into that momentarily. And first and foremost, I'm going to kick things off with our first super chat of the night. And I just want to remind everybody watching this show, if you do send in a super chat at any point throughout this stream, not only does it help me out, I do get to keep 100% of all proceeds from super chats, but additionally, I do get to read your comment, your statement, or your question on the air. So we got our first super chat. This one is from Darth Steven C777, who says, let's do this. Much love to you, Denise. Thank you so much, man, for sending in some positive vibes right before we kick off the show. Nick Grasso sends in a super chat and says, who do you think will be on the War Games teams based on what we saw tonight? I think the women's team will be Raquel versus Team Dakota, and the men's will be Team Gargano versus Team Carmelo. Well, I definitely think you're on to something there. I mean, they announced the NXT War Games for December 5th. And right now, like, for aside from like the only one to me that feels extremely positive in terms of like, okay, I know what they're going with and I know the direction they're heading within is the women's. But in terms of the men's team, I'm not completely so sure that I know what the men's team is going to look like. For the women, I agree with you. Like, we're going to be seeing, maybe Team Raquel, no, I don't even think we're going to be seeing Team Raquel, Team Dakota. I think we're going to be seeing something along the lines of, Toxic Attraction and so Toxic Attraction and perhaps also like maybe Kaci, Kayden, and Io, kind of like what you saw here tonight. I do think that's more of the direction that I feel they're leaning towards with War Games, but I do not know. Again, we'll find out, but I just don't know if it's going to necessarily be Team Raquel versus Team Dakota, because it wouldn't necessarily make sense to me, at least, but we'll get into that in a second. But thank you so much to Nick Rosso for kicking us off here with all of that here. Oh, we got people that are sending in their thoughts on what they thought about the show, so I'm going to get through a couple of those. Let's see what we got here. This one is from Mike New York, who says, opening was good, so was main event. Good stuff there. We got a lot of people putting over the main event. I agree. The main event was perfectly fine, and we'll talk about that more in a second. We got Frigid Bastards who says that it was awful. Justin says this show was all about the first match and the main event. Both really good matches. Everything in between was a lot of filler. Matt Hensley says, after Mandy was off the screen, I found myself making every excuse not to watch the show. Says he made a lot of unnecessary food and just played with their dogs. Guys, there are certain things that I think people are going to like from this show and just others that are not going to happen. We got a lot of questions that we have to answer, as well as to where is Santos Escobar? I legitimately have no idea. We got another super chat from Hector Rodriguez who says, so is Dakota schizophrenic now? Because last week it was incredibly odd. Okay, so somebody's asking if Dakota Kai is schizophrenic. I do not think that is the story that they are telling. I do not think they are trying to tell us that Dakota Kai is schizophrenic. I don't think that's what they're going with, but I do think they're trying to tell us that she's crazy, that she's lost it, that she's a psychopath now. And if her coming out with like messy hair and talking and all weird didn't give it away this week, I do think she's going down like the psychopath version of herself, but I do not think that she's like schizophrenic or something. But thank you so much to Hector Rodriguez for asking, because we still kind of really don't even know, if I'm being completely honest. All right, guys, let's get into this show because there's a lot of things we gotta dissect. So let's do this, everybody. All right. Let's start off with a positive on this show, because I would consider this a positive, and this was the opening match that we had for today, which was Io, Kaci, and Kayden versus Toxic Attraction. And before we get into this match, so I posed a question on Twitter that kind of got a lot of different responses, and I think I didn't really explain myself all that well. But in terms of, and I want the chat to help me out with this here, in terms of who you consider the biggest star on NXT or the biggest stars on NXT 2.0 right now, who would you say those people are? And I want this based on how they're being pushed, based on stories, and based on the fact that they're actually given TV time. Who do you think those people are in terms of the people that have benefited the most from this NXT 2.0 change? I'm very curious as to what you guys think, because my prediction, or not prediction, but my feeling is that it's definitely Toxic Attraction, which is, I'm bringing this up because I'm trying to make a point. And my point is that it is so wild when you think of the big difference that NXT was before and NXT is now. Like, and it's so dumb, okay? I know that we're sitting here and we're like, yeah, Denise, well, they have new branding. They got rid of like practically everybody. And, the show is very different. It's so different. And that's very obvious. And I know that. And I get all that. But it's just kind of crazy that, the old NXT, you had your top stars, you would say, were like, oh, Adam Cole and, people like Johnny Gargano and names like that, right? And now your top names are Toxic Attraction. Like, in my opinion, it's Toxic Attraction. Like, I'm not talking about like who I think could be big stars or who I think is like, popular. I think in terms of like the fact that they're actually putting like thought and giving them TV time, it's definitely Toxic Attraction, which is just kind of, it's a little bit mind-blowing. And even though we've seen the changes and we know they're happening and we're watching them every week, it's still a little bit baffling to me. Like, it hasn't set in just yet. And I don't want to take anything away from Toxic Attraction, because for the most part, I do think they're doing a phenomenal job. But just the fact that they are essentially the most promoted and the most pushed people on NXT 2.0, it just goes to show how different NXT is now. And it is kind of crazy, okay? It's kind of crazy. Let's see what the chat is saying here. Because we got Kevin saying Carmelo Hayes. Carmelo Hayes is being pushed in the sense that obviously, he became NXT North American champion. He had that nice, stare down with Tommaso Ciampa, and all of that is fine. But I still wouldn't consider him one of the top stars on NXT 2.0 right now. Like, he's up there, but I wouldn't necessarily say that. I don't feel like they've been promoting him nearly as much as they have like Toxic Attraction, for example. We got Boondock Saint 316 bringing up Tony D'Angelo. And Tony D'Angelo, see, that's somebody that has gotten popular with the people. Like the people that I've seen on social media have loved Tony D'Angelo, and Tony D'Angelo has, been getting these little vignettes here and there, but I still don't think that when you think of right now who the face and who the biggest stars of NXT 2.0 are, I still don't even see Tony D'Angelo up there because he doesn't necessarily get, he gets these little vignettes here and there, but that's kind of about it. That's where it pretty much ends. It ends right there. They haven't gone above and beyond after that. Braun Breaker, in terms of star, we all know he's a star. And, he had that big match against Tommaso Ciampa, and he's kind of the person that most people are interested in. And he's the person that most people are interested in. When there's people that are like, I don't really want to give NXT 2.0, Braun Breaker is, to me, the person that makes you say, you know what, I might give NXT 2.0 a chance because I want to see this Braun Breaker guy and I want to see what everybody's talking about. So he's got that in that sense. But even then, like after this whole thing with Tommaso Ciampa, he had that pretty awesome promo afterwards. But then even then, there hasn't really been much follow-up. They did air oh my gosh, they did air a promo that he had today on the show. But even then, it's just not crazy. Joe Gacy, again, another person who is being Joe Gacy has been getting a lot of TV time and promotion. Oh man, that's crazy. Duke Hudson. I don't think he's necessarily one of the top ones either. Von Wagner, I don't think so either. I would say Carmella Hayes is a lot higher up on those rankings, and so is Joe Gacy. And this is not in terms of who I think is a star or who I'm a fan of on the show. This is literally just in terms of who is being heavily promoted on the show and who actually gets story and TV time each and every single week consistently. Like that's my point that I'm trying to make. So it's a little bit insane. And pretty much this is why I was thinking about this, and Darth brings this up, and this is the fact that Toxic Attraction really is all over this commercials. Every week when I'm watching Monday Night Raw, what do they promote? They promote Toxic Attraction, which is just, it's wild, everybody. And Sarah Machine Gun says the announcers gush over Toxic Attraction constantly. And Razor Gem 555 says, is it crazy? Remember, this is Vince's booking right now. It's crazy. And I get your joke. I get the joke. So I'm actually going to laugh because that joke's pretty funny. But it's kind of one of those things where I'm just like, what is happening, everybody? Maybe it's my fault. I just haven't registered it. Okay. I haven't registered. It still hasn't hit me. I recap the show every week and it still hasn't hit me. And let's get to this, guys. So let's get into this match itself. So we had Mandy and Kayden kick off the match. This is a 6-way. It's Toxic Attraction versus Io, Kaci, and Kayden. And I just want to take a second to say that Kaci and Kayden is probably, in terms of development as a tag team, they are literally the team that I have seen the most growth in. They're probably my favorite team that they have given a shot in on NXT. Like, we've seen a lot of teams come and go. We've seen a lot of people just like randomly get to put together in these teams. And honestly, I think Kaci and Kayden has probably been the best out of all of those. They've been growing as a team. They're fun to watch. Obviously, they're still, green and all of that. And that's fine because we're just seeing them, improve more and more as we move forward. I'm a fan of Kaci and Kayden. I like what they've been doing with them. I like what they've been doing with Toxic Attraction. And even though this isn't my ideal NXT and this isn't what I would consider, top-notch content for the most part, I do want to give credit where credit is due. And I do think that they've been doing a phenomenal job with the women on NXT, or they've been putting the effort, and the effort has been there because we've seen it now for the last couple of weeks where they really do give the women a lot of time. They give them a lot of story. Exhibit A with Toxic Attraction being your main focal point on the show. In terms of like doing stuff with the women, it's been great on that end. In terms of like the tag team division, it was kind of getting stale for a bit there, but tonight I kind of felt like it was, sort of picking up steam just a little bit more. I think with Gigi and Jacy right now as these strong champions, I think they've been doing a good job with their story and what they've been doing thus far. In terms of the match itself, though, we see Mandy Rose and Kayden kick off this match. Mandy quickly tags in Gigi, and Gigi kicks Kayden right in the back, then gets her with a hurricanrana and immediately tags in Jacy Jayne. So you see all of these fast tags from Toxic Attraction. And then we get Io in the ring. She finally changes the pace for her team. And then we get to see some nice tag team action between Kayden and Kaci. We see Io go for a dive, but instead Mandy Rose stops the dive, grabs her, and hits her with a spine buster, which kind of made Mandy Rose look really aggressive. And I want to give kudos to Mandy because she's been nailing this. She's been bringing in a whole new level of aggression that I realistically didn't even know she had. So kudos to her on that. Io Shirai hits Mandy Rose with a moonsault, and then the crowd was really into this match. Good for them on that as well. And that's kind of it, guys. In the end, we see Gigi get the win for her team. Toxic Attraction continues their dominance, and that's kind of about it. And given that they're the face of NXT right now, they've been doing a good job building them up. What were your thoughts on this? Go ahead and send in some comments, and I'm going to be reading your thoughts here. And let's see what you guys are saying. This one, all right, we got so many different comments here. This is from CRS Uno, who says, I hope WWE gets their stuff together. They have such amazing talent. They got a lot of talent. I don't think talent's ever been the problem. The problem really is, the major problem is creative and, not having things for said talent. And obviously one of the big topics that people have been talking about when they talk about those WWE releases is, how did they not find something for this person to do? Karrion Kross, who was literally like, when he was on NXT and right before his injury, even right before he became NXT champion for the first time, everybody was like, yeah, he's going to be a star. He's going to be a star. Do you remember when Keith Lee was holding up both belts? And the second that they zoomed out of that celebration from Keith Lee holding up both belts, they zoomed into a shot of Karrion Kross watching Keith Lee do his celebration. Like, remember when we were all stoked about that? And then sadly, things went downhill with Karrion Kross. The people weren't necessarily feeling him all of that much on NXT, but then they started to do this, they built towards that hot feud with him and Samoa Joe, but unfortunately, everything that was going down with Karrion Kross on the main roster affected that. But he's just one of the examples of people that you can talk about with this. I mean, another one, Ember Moon, guys, who we've been here talking about on the NXT so many times. One of the other people that I was like, okay, I'm going too fast now. But those are just a couple of examples where you're like, damn, there could have been something there, okay? There could have been something. Whatever. I can go on and on about that, but I'm not gonna psych myself out right now. This is a comment from Danny Spears, who says, I'm so impressed with Mandy. She went from it's not worth it to being the face of NXT. I love her. Honestly, if you're a fan of Mandy Rose, I get it because I'm a fan of hers too. And I got nothing but respect for her. She was given an opportunity and you know what? She ran with it. Good for her, guys. Good for her. All right, guys, let's go ahead and jump into our next topic here. And let's get into this is going to lead to the main event of the night, but let's talk this really quickly about Pete Dunne. So Pete Dunne does a backstage interview with Mackenzie Mitchell, and my first thought was, damn, when's the last time that we've seen Pete Dunne? And I started thinking, I was like, okay, I do not recall seeing him before, and I think the last time that we had seen him on NXT was when Ridge Holland was still there. That was before Ridge Holland got drafted over onto the main roster. So I went and I was like, okay, let me check. Let me see here. When is the last time that we've seen Pete Dunne? Because I feel like it's been centuries, but time flies by, right? October 12th. October 12th was the last time that we saw Pete Dunne. It was Kyle O'Reilly and Von Wagner versus Pete Dunne and Ridge Holland. And that was definitely before the WWE draft. We already knew the draft, who was going to be drafted and all of that, but it hadn't necessarily taken effect just yet. But we knew that Ridge Holland was essentially going to be out the door. And Pete Dunne doesn't need Ridge Holland. That's not even a question by any means. We all know that Pete Dunne can thrive on his own. We get all of that, but they didn't really do much with him since then. And unfortunately, I have to say that Pete Dunne is one of those guys that just does not fit into this new NXT 2.0. And I've been talking about this every week because it's just too obvious. Certain guys just don't no longer fit into this, new version of NXT. Pete Dunne is up there, which bums me out because I've been rooting for Pete Dunne to become NXT champion for the longest time. But thankfully, this did lead to an awesome main event, which I will talk about later on. But anyway, so during this, I'm thinking to myself, man, where has Pete Dunne been this entire time? Mackenzie asked him about Tony D'Angelo, and then Carmelo and Trick Williams confront him, and Pete doesn't even understand what Trick Williams is saying. It's hilarious. This then leads into that match for the main event, which I will talk about once we get to the actual main event. We got a comment from Hector Rodriguez who says Pete Dunne needs to return to NXT UK because it seems NXT UK has been protected during these cuts. In terms of cuts, yes, but it's like being on NXT UK for me is practically like the equivalent of being on Main Event and 205 Live. Nobody watches, like hardly nobody watches. So it's like, it's not necessarily the best option either. Oh, the options are limited, everybody. The options are limited. MSK, we get a quick segment with the MSK. If you recall, last week they went on this grand adventure. I don't even know who they're looking for. Did they ever say who they're looking for? They're saying they were looking for somebody, and I'm like, I don't think they've ever actually said who they're looking for unless I completely missed this. But the point here that I'm trying to get at is that technically in the story that they are telling in NXT, they have been literally walking and looking for this person for a whole week now, because it's a continuation of what we saw from last week. And even during this episode, they were talking about how they haven't showered and this and that. And I'm like, what? This doesn't make sense. Why have they been walking for a whole entire week? Why haven't they showered? Have they ate? We don't know. This is a little bit weird, but they get to the location. The address has changed, and now they're continue on, and I guess they're going to stop to take a shower or something. I don't know. I don't really have much to say about this. Sheldon Jackson sends in a super chat and says, I think it's time for a heel British strong style in NXT. Sure, why not? I'll take anything right now, guys. I will take anything on NXT 2.0, something to spice it up. Thank you, Sheldon Jackson, for sending in this super chat here. We got a couple of funny comments here. Razor Jam 555 says they are looking for Bigfoot. Hector Rodriguez says they're probably looking for Trey Miguel. Boondog Saint 316 says they're looking for Cactus Jack. And YT gives us a legit answer, saying they are looking for the guy that made the MSK name. Oh, my God, guys. Brandon says MSK, they're looking for Waldo. Jesus. Well, there was an article, I forget by which media outlet, but somebody retweeted it and it popped up on my timeline where the headline read, WWE lost more than 70 wrestlers this year or whatever, right? And everybody was kind of writing on that article like, lost? Why did you put lost? Like, they didn't lose anybody. So everybody was bringing up the keyword lost. So there you go. MSK was looking for those 70 people. Damn, I need to go back and find that article and make that joke. I'm going to go find it later on, guys. Oh, Ron, my friend, Ron leaves a comment saying they're looking for Santos Escobar. We'll talk about Santos Escobar momentarily, man. We'll talk about it momentarily. Jonathan Rendon says they are looking for the old NXT. Mike New York says MSK is looking for Big Bird. Really good stuff, guys. I love it. Our chat has jokes. I appreciate it. We got a comment from Sour Machine Gun who says that the Mile High line popped up. Good stuff there. All right, guys, let's get into this next match. Let's get into Saray versus Kaylee Ray. So, Jesus. Okay, these are two girls that for a hot minute, they were kind of doing something with both of them during different periods, of course. So when Saray came into NXT, they had her, she was picking up wins. They were kind of building her up. At least it felt to me like they were building her up. She was getting wins. She was getting actual time. She was looking dominant in her matches, but it just kind of led to nowhere and it amounted to nothing. And you kind of forgot that Saray was even there because she she hadn't been in any matches. I don't even know when's the last time she even had a match, but they didn't have her do much, and she didn't have a story, nada. And then the same situation with Kaylee Ray. So Kaylee Ray, this is her first match since September. Prior to this, we hadn't seen her for a bit, but prior to that, she was on a winning streak as well. I think she was on a 3-match winning streak, and then they just kind of forgot about that. We didn't see her. Then all of a sudden, they started playing these vignettes where she's smashing things, and then now she's back. And so Kaylee Ray and Saray are kind of suffering from were suffering from the same exact thing, where they were doing something with them, and then it didn't really go anywhere, and now they're coming back to this. In terms of Saray, I still don't feel confident that they're actually doing something with her, but in terms of Kaylee Ray, it does seem like they're doing something with her, because with her, they've given her an actual character. They've given her this psychopath, and she's fed up, and she's smashing things, and during this match, you just see her aggressive nature unfold out on Saray. So with that being said, the future is looking a little bit brighter for Kaylee Ray. So good for her. During this match, she literally stomps the hell out of Saray. Afterwards, you see Saray do double stomps on Kaylee and kicks her in the arm. This pisses off Kaylee Ray, and it makes her snap. And then Kaylee Ray obviously ends up getting the win here, but she ends up hitting her with a DDT that looked really phenomenal. She goes for the pin, but it's a near fall. And then afterwards, we see Saray do a running double drop kick, but Kaylee moves out of the way so she doesn't get kicked in the face, and she ends up hitting her with the KOR bomb onto the commentary table, then gets her back into the ring and hits her with that again, and that is how she is able to get the win here. So I will say this much. I like what they're doing with Kaylee Ray as of tonight. I like what they are doing with Kaylee Ray, because nobody else on the roster, maybe you can argue Dakota Kai, but nobody else really has this psychopathic, crazy, I'm just a lunatic sort of vibe. And Kaylee Ray has that right now. So she's kind of standing out on her own. So that's good. If they keep doing this with Kaylee Ray and they keep featuring her on the show and they keep building her up, they can make more stories for the women aside from just Toxic Attraction and Kaci and Kayden and all of that. They can actually add a little bit more there. So I do hope that they build up Kaylee Ray, because I'm liking what she's bringing to the table thus far, and she's standing out on her own. So good for her on that end. As for Saray, I don't know what's really going to go on with Saray. I don't know how much they're actually going to do with her. I do not know. We'll have to wait and see. But let's see what your guys' thoughts are. Send them in. What are your thoughts on Saray? What are your thoughts on Kaylee Ray and what they've been doing with both of these women, etc.? Send them in. Let's see what you got here. And this is coming from Brandon, who said that Saray has been on 205 Live a lot before this match. Yeah, but that doesn't, I'm sorry, but it doesn't really mean anything to me. If somebody's on 205 Live, cool. Or main event, cool. It doesn't really mean much to me, because they haven't made it mean anything. So why should it mean something? Why? I don't know. Let's see what we got here. This one is from Sour Machine Guns, who says that Kaylee Ray walked through Toxic Attraction during her entrance. Maybe that's a War Games tease. Yep, she did. She could easily maybe join up with them. We don't know. That could be a thing. Sure, why not? Does it make sense? Did she just walked out while they were there and her entrance was there? And I feel like they've been doing that because they've been trying to speed up the show. If you notice, they've been trying to speed up the format of the show, so they have a lot of different segments intertwined with one another. So I think that's probably what happened there. It was just that. Maybe we're thinking way too much into this. I don't know. All right, let's go through a couple more comments here. And this is a comment from Raymond Kosos, who says that Saray definitely took some punishment for sure there. And Razor Jen wants to know what happened to the push for Saray. I don't have an answer for you. I legitimately do not have an answer for you. I think it was just one of those things where she came in, they gave her a couple of wins, cool, but that was just about the extent of creative for her. All right, but we're going to jump into our next topic here. And before we do, I just want to remind you guys all that I have a couple of big things coming up this week. This is going to be a busy week on here. So tomorrow, I'm going to be back here for AEW Dynamite. AEW Dynamite is my most popular show of the week, and it's the go-home show heading into AEW Full Gear. So it's going to be a big episode of Dynamite. Make sure you guys come in for that. That one's going to be a whole lot of fun. And then additionally, on Thursday, I have a very special episode. So this Friday, I am not going to be doing a SmackDown Rampage post show here because I'm going to be at Rampage. So I won't be doing a post show for Rampage because I'll be at the event. So in order to make up for that, on Thursday, I'm going to be doing a live prediction stream with none other than drum roll, please. Lance Storm, everyone. Lance Storm is going to be joining me here to chat AEW Full Gear predictions. It's going to be a good time. I have never done a show with Lance Storm. This is going to be our official first show together. I was so happy when he said yes to being part of this when I asked him. So I'm very excited to do the show with him. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Lance Storm brings like a tremendous amount of insight. So I cannot wait to hear his thoughts on the storylines, his thoughts on the possible outcomes, his thoughts on just overall AEW Full Gear in general. And then on top of that, I will be flying out to Full Gear this weekend. So I am going to be like tweeting a lot and talking a lot about what's going down over in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And then the following day, I will be doing an AEW Full Gear post show, and that's going to be happening early in the morning on Sunday, the following day, because immediately following AEW Full Gear, I will be attending the media scrum, which is obviously going to take up my time there. So just pretty much all over the place. But if you guys want to make sure you get all of their AEW Full Gear coverage, especially from someone who's going to be there, make sure to follow me on on Twitter at _ Denise Salcedo. But now that I got all of those plugs in, let's go ahead and jump into our next topic, which is Boa versus Joe Gacy. Oh, God, guys. Okay, so we talk about literally, I just said at the top of this show, there are things that I like and there are things that I don't like. This is on the side of things that I do not like. This is the part of NXT 2.0 where I'm just like, no, this is not for me. I'm a very open-minded person. This isn't for me. There's a lot of things that aren't for the majority of people that I'll be like, cool. I'm cool with that, but I'm not cool with this. Like, I don't care. God, I try. Okay, here we go. Boa versus Joe Gacy. And here's the thing. Like, for the longest time, Boa was just like in the shadows. He was just in the shadows. He didn't do anything. They didn't have him do nothing. And now he's literally been featured on NXT 2.0 more so than some other people that you're just like, what? This doesn't make sense. And I don't want to take away anything from Boa because for the most part, he's been doing okay. Okay, right? Just okay. But again, it's just another obvious direction. I don't know what to call it. It's just basically a friendly reminder that this ain't the old NXT. And Boa is now being featured more he's being featured more than Pete Dunne. Seriously, guys, think about that for a second. Anyways, Joe Gacy. I'm going to say this much. I'm going to put over Boa for a second, okay, guys? And I know a lot of people are not going to agree with me on this one, but damn, I'm sorry. But like, Joe Gacy's character has not been great. You guys will agree with me on that. But I'm going to go this far. For a split second during this match, I was more impressed by Boa than I was Joe Gacy in terms of in-ring work. Sorry, sue me. I know that's not going to be a popular opinion, but damn, I just have not been impressed whatsoever with Joe Gacy. Not on the character front, not on the in-ring front. I'm sorry it hasn't happened for me just yet. Apologies to Joe Gacy, but I just don't know what there is. It's just not there for me. It's not happening for me there. We saw Boa give him a couple of strikes during this match. Cool, whatever. We had a very interesting finish, all right? Like a very interesting finish. And I don't know how else to say this, but They kind of did the Finn Balor thing with Boa. And if you're wondering what the hell are you talking about, Denise, what do you mean the Finn Balor thing? Well, do you remember Finn Balor's match with Roman Reigns where the lights went down and it felt like a music video and Finn Balor resurrects and then he does a bunch of stuff and then it just kind of goes downhill from there where they like the ropes fall and all of that. Okay, they kind of did something a little similar with Boa. It wasn't the music and the lights weren't as cool as when they did it with Finn Balor, but they still like dimmed the lights. They kind of had it. I thought that the lights dimmed down because somebody was going to come out. That's what I thought. But instead, they just dimmed the lights down. They did a little bit of like, the glitching lights and all of that. And then that somehow gave Boa superpowers. I don't know how, but it gave Boa superpowers. It gave him a really, really strong hand, a really, really strong arm, and he just starts choking the hell out of Joe Gacy. He just starts choking him and choking him, and the referee's like telling him to stop, but he doesn't stop, and the music and the lights are still going, and Boa's in a whole other zone, and then it's a DQ because he doesn't stop choking him. And so Joe Gacy wins, and Joe Gacy looks at the camera and he just starts smiling. That was the finish to this match, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know what else to say. I don't know what to tell you. That was the finish. I'm sorry. Why am I apologizing? All right. Please, chat, send me your thoughts on this. What did you think of this interesting way in which Boa almost won this match? Let us know here. God. All right. Matt Kensley says, watch out, Boa. God's coming for you next. Avoid all turnbuckles. Gacy joining the bloodline confirmed. Brandon wants to know, so God empowered Boa? I don't know, guys. I don't know. I don't have answers for you guys here. Mike New York says, Fiend Boa. Razor Gem says, I guess Boa has the Finn demon gimmick. Zeno Hour says, I guess Boa is a face now. Is he a face now? I didn't see that as a face turn. I don't think so. I don't think that means he's a face now. I think he's still just Boa. I don't even know what Boa is. Boa's just Boa. Dang, I have no answers for you guys. Jesus. Hector Rodriguez says, I didn't even realize they were replicating the Prince Devitt spot from Extreme Rules. Well, they weren't like replicating it, but it was something similar. That was just like the best way. That was the first thing that popped into my mind. And so like the second that the lights went down and Finn Balor resurrected and he kind of gained all this stamina and power. That was exactly kind of what we saw but happened to Boa, where he gets this really strong arm and just starts choking, what's his face? Joe Gacy. Sheldon Jackson says, I feel bad for Boa. Tian Shaw looks so cool with the promos, but now IDK. See, and that's the thing. So that's the thing. I wasn't even into this whole Tian Shaw storyline. This was one of those things that I always did not care for. And some of you guys may remember this, but when I was reviewing both AEW and NXT at the exact same time, it was hard. It was not easy. And the Tian Shaw, Boa, Xia Li segments on NXT were always the ones that I chose not to watch. I just thought to myself, I'm not going to watch this. I don't care. It's a waste of my time. I'm going to focus on, what's going on AEW. So it was one of those things where that story always took me out of NXT. So I'm not the right person here to be talking about that storyline because I was never interested in it since like day one. And granted, Xia Li is cool and all of that. I do like, her look and everything that she's brought to the table. Obviously, she's sort of been forgotten about too. She's on the main roster now, but they haven't actually like debuted her officially, right? But I was never really into that storyline. So maybe I'm a little bit unfair. We got a super chat from Heidi Ho 77. Thank you so much to Heidi, who says, I'm tuning in late, but I guess I'm the old man demo. LMAO. This is my favorite wrestling show I've watched in a few weeks. What? Heidi Ho. Wait, this is a joke, right? It's a joke? No, wait, are you being serious? Oh, I don't know. Oh, I don't want to make you feel bad. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you so much, Heidi Ho, for sending in this super chat. I think you're making a joke because you said that you were the old man demo. And then you said this was your favorite wrestling show that you've watched in a few weeks. So was it a joke? Oh, man, guys. Oh, I feel terrible. All right, we'll find out if it's a joke or not momentarily. All right. And this is a comment from Danny Spears who says that, which means he looks out of his mind. I can tell by his expressions. He looks like he's a scheming and evil. He's the physical presence of. Are we talking about Boa here, or are we talking about Joe Gacy? I'm not sure who we're talking about. Heidi Ho 77 says, I think it's the colors and the LSD. I appreciate it. See, okay, cool. Now we can move on and we know it's a joke. I appreciate it. Thank you very much for sending that in. All right, guys, let's go ahead and move on. So after this, let's get into so we had a quick little backstage Jiro and Kushida segment here, but I don't know what they were. I think they were just saying like something about them being Japanese over and over again. And I don't know how you guys feel about this, but this is just I think what they're doing with Jacket Time. Yes, that is their tag team name, Jacket Time, which is a terrible name, but whatever. It feels very, very stereotypical. And so I can't really get into it because you're making them like very stereotypical. And on top of that, it's hard to get invested when you're kind of making a joke out of them, when you're kind of making them into a joke because of their, backgrounds. Like that's what this feels like. So I can't really even though I'm a fan of both Jiro and Kushida, actually, because I'm a fan of both Jiro and Kushida, I don't want them to have like this stereotypical character. So it kind of makes me a little bit it makes me a little bit uneasy. But that's how I feel. It makes me uneasy. Like I can't get behind this. I can't say oh, it's funny because it doesn't feel funny. It really doesn't feel funny here. Our future media says, what have they done to Kushida? And that's the thing. Kushida was always that person because Kushida's freaking amazing in the ring, right? Amazing in the ring. But for a good period of time, he was getting legit matches, legit competition, and was seen as a real competitor on NXT. And now he's sort of been relinquished again into sort of like the stereotypical joke, which is just unfortunate because Kushida could literally have the best matches with just about anybody. Like no matter what, you always got those good matches from Kushida. Brandon says, my heart breaks over what they are doing with Kushida, was once an amazing champion. Mike New York says Kushida will turn on Jiro. Zeno Hours says that was a stereotypical promo. Hopefully they won't do it again. I'm sure they will, guys. I mean, the whole thing, I hate to use this example again, but it was the best example because it was a terrible segment, which is what they did with Io Shirai and Zoe Stark with the whole food thing and the whole race thing and them liking different foods. And it was just got really, really weird. So given that a lot of people actually spoke out about that, and granted, they never really did it again, but a lot of people complained about that on social media because it wasn't necessarily something very comfortable to see, but it's just kind of the same thing that they've been doing, with people for a very long time. And we're just seeing it happen again. All right. And let's get into Jiro and Kushida versus the Creed brothers here. So, I thought this was going to be a squash. I legitimately thought that the Creed brothers were just going to come in here and, just squash the living hell out of them, beat both Jiro and Kushida. That's what I was expecting from this match. But they actually gave a lot of offense to Jiro and Kushida. I was a fan of that. We saw a pretty cool senton from Jiro to Julius Creed. We see, obviously, that awesome speed from Kushida that he always does. We see a lot of nice teamwork between Kushida and Jiro. Julius ends up hitting Jiro with a power bomb for the win. And even though this match wasn't necessarily what I expected, because I did expect the Creed brothers just to demolish them, and even though this wasn't necessarily the greatest or the greatest match whatsoever, I actually have to say that I like this. So I liked what they did here, and the reason why I liked this was for a couple of reasons. One, they gave the Creed brothers the win, and the Creed brothers, I've been a fan of the Creed brothers. I think they're the best thing that happened to Diamond Mine, period. So I'm a fan of the Creed brothers. Thumbs up on them getting the win. And then they didn't necessarily bury Kushida and Jiro the way that I thought they would. Like they actually gave them a little bit during this match, just a couple of hope spots here and there. So given the fact that they didn't utterly completely bury them, I didn't hate that. And then on top of that, you had Odyssey Jones get involved here. So after this match, Diamond Mine, gets into the ring and it looks like they're about to, take advantage of Jiro and Kushida. But before that is able to happen, Odyssey Jones runs in and he kind of clears the ring and makes sure that, Diamond Mine gets spooked the hell out and they all run away. So you have now Odyssey Jones sort of moving on to something different. I really wasn't digging what he was doing with Andre Chase. That whole story was just kind of dull. So I kind of feel bad though for Odyssey Jones. I feel like they don't really know who to pair him up against. They don't really know what to do with Odyssey Jones. And Odyssey Jones is probably the person that out of besides Carmelo Hayes on that NXT breakout tournament, he's the other guy that I really, really liked and kind of became a big fan of during that tournament. But since then, they haven't really done anything with Odyssey Jones. That Andre Chase thing, it was not going to get him over. So right now it kind of feels like they're trying to find to see where Odyssey Jones might fit in. I do not think that this is it. It doesn't really necessarily, he doesn't necessarily blend in with Jacket Time, but whatever. He came out for the rescue. They have friends. Good for him. That was about it. But other than that, I didn't hate this segment. I didn't hate it. And all right, before we move on to the next topic, just a friendly reminder, guys, if you haven't subscribed to F4W Online, if you're listening to the audio version of this and you're like, damn it, Denise reminds me every week and I still haven't gone over to youtube.com/F4W Online, make sure you do so. Head on over to the channel, click that subscribe button. We have well surpassed that 80,000 subscriber mark and we are en route to 100K. So make sure you guys go ahead and subscribe. If you're watching on Twitch, thank you so much for being a Twitch homie, like Brian Alvarez says. But make sure you guys also head on over to YouTube and click that subscribe button. All of the subscribers, they all help, they all count, they all matter. All right. Let's move on to this next topic here. Raquel Gonzalez, she calls out Dakota Kai. So, man, it kind of I've already said my piece about Dakota Kai. I've already said my piece about how this doesn't necessarily make sense, that we're restarting the story again with Dakota Kai and Raquel. We already know how I felt. We already knew that I expected her to show up on the main roster. That didn't happen. So now she's back here and they're sort of picking up the pieces of where they left off and they're trying to come up with something to do here. Okay, fine. Cool. Dakota essentially comes out and she gets a couple of words in. She doesn't get to say much because she gets attacked by Cora Jade. So this was the one thing that I didn't necessarily like. And the only reason I didn't like this was because I'm trying to figure out what is going on with Dakota Kai. We had her come back. She hits Raquel Gonzalez on the back with the shovel. And then Mandy Rose tries to befriend her for toxic attraction, but Dakota Kai doesn't want to do that. She wants to keep doing her thing. She tells Mandy Rose, I didn't do this for you. I didn't cost Raquel Gonzalez the match for you. I did this for me because I have unfinished business with Raquel. Great, fine, perfect. But now it seems that Dakota Kai, like somebody questioned earlier if she was schizophrenic, but I just think she's psycho. I don't know what that means, but I just think she's she's crazy. That's what they're telling us. Her hair is all messed up and, she's coming out here and she's spewing a little bit of nonsense. So you can't really make out what she's saying. Now, I don't know what that means for Dakota Kai, though. I don't know what's happening there because there wasn't enough for me to say, okay, this is the direction that they're going in with Dakota Kai. It wasn't clear because before she could get much to say, Cora Jade attacks her from behind. Raquel then goes up to Cora Jade and she's kind of pissed off at Cora Jade and she kind of lets her know, you know what, Dakota Kai, I know you have beef with her, but so do I. And I'm going to, take care of, she's mine first. She's mine first. And they kind of have a little bit of an understanding there. Now, in terms of Cora Jade, I like this for Cora Jade. For Cora Jade, good for her. She came out. She got an attack. She got face-to-face against the former NXT Women's Champion, Raquel Gonzalez. I liked what this did for Cora Jade. It's clear that they're definitely pushing her, so good on her for that. But I don't know how this is all going to align with the Raquel Gonzalez Dakota Kai storyline, because that feels like its own thing. And now you're incorporating Cora Jade into this, or at least you did so for this week. I'm wondering what the direction they're going to head into it now, because clearly Cora Jade has some beef with Dakota Kai that she's going to want to solve. But at the same time, you can't press pause on what they're doing with Raquel Gonzalez, because they have already pressed pause for way too long. So thoughts on this, guys? How do you feel about the presentation of Dakota Kai? How do you feel on the attack, about the attack that Cora Jade gave her, etc.? Let's go ahead and find out what you guys all had to say here. And this is from Brandon, who says that Cora Jade is getting quite a bit of TV time in NXT 2. And yeah, and I'm glad for her. Honestly, she's been very, very likable throughout all of this here. Very, very likable. And this one is from Detto Pug, excuse me, who says, people I wish we released from NXT pretty much anywhere no one from NXT points out, because I feel better, they're better. Oh, you feel better, they're going elsewhere with better pay. Well, we don't know that. We don't know that. All right. Sour Machine Gun says she's hearing Randy Orton voices. Poor Dakota Kai. She's hearing those voices. Kevin Schoenfield says Mickie James and AJ Lee were the only ones that made the psychotic character. I loved Mickie James. Like when she was super obsessed with Trish Stratus and she was like that psycho. Oh, I love that. Like that was one, like I was such a big Mickie James fan back then. I was so into that story. So into that. Heidi Ho says, I love Twitchy Dakota. Jesus. Sheldon Jackson predicts War Games, anyone captained by Raquel and Dakota. So it seems like everyone's feeling that direction. Cool. We got another segment backstage with Andre Trace University. It's the exact same thing. He's talking about mental toughness. One of his students calls him out. He snaps. Cool. We're moving on. Cameron Grimes versus Ru Fang. So Ru Fang, guys, I completely and utterly forgot that he was the guy that wrestled Tony D'Angelo. Completely forgot. Like I thought I was seeing Ru Fang for the first time ever. And it wasn't until I went ahead and Googled him where I was like, okay, I've actually seen Ru Fang. I've seen him before. I completely forgot. So this looks to be his third match in WWE. So he had that match with Tony D'Angelo. And then afterwards he's had two 205 Live matches, one with Zion Quinn and one with Roderick Strong. So he has like what you call very, very minimal experience. He's 6'2", weighs 242 pounds. He was signed to the WWE Performance Center in July, along with a small class of recruits that were featured. That also featured Dante Chen from Singapore and Jai Yin from China. So that's sort of the background on Ru Fang. There really isn't much else to add about him there. Cameron Grimes hasn't necessarily wrestled a match since October 5th when he last lost to Pete Dunne. And this feels like a major step down with Cameron Grimes. And Cameron Grimes was literally one of the top guys that people were really enjoying, as of late on NXT. He had that whole storyline with LA Knight, which even though wasn't my, cup of tea, a lot of people were very much into LA Knight and Cameron Grimes. And since that whole $1 million championship bout thing kind of ended, he's been, sort of in the backgrounds of this NXT 2.0. He's been having these segments with Grayson Waller, where Grayson Waller's trying to get him to, to go on these Tinder apps and these dating apps to go out and date women or whatever. And that's kind of what they've been doing with him. And now he's in this match with Ru Fang, which nobody really cares about. So I can't really say that. I don't really think that they're utilizing Cameron Grimes. And now he's doing this, moving on to this story with Duke Hudson. So if you guys recall, last week they were doing a bunch of vignettes with Duke Hudson in the poker room and with Cameron Grimes. And then post-match, after Cameron Grimes defeated Ru Fang, you had Duke Hudson essentially call him out and basically ask Cameron Grimes, hey, did you play me or did you not play me when you were, playing the poker game with me? Like basically wanting to know if Cameron Grimes had hustled him or not. And Cameron Grimes basically essentially confirms that he did. And that's where we're at right now. Duke Hudson and Cameron Grimes. I just personally, I haven't been into the Duke Hudson character. I haven't been interested at all. And yeah, this is what we're doing right now with Cameron Grimes, guys. It's not the hottest story. It's not the hottest story here. Man, I feel bad, guys. Oh man, we're almost done. We're almost done with that one. I don't know what to say. All right, guys, let's go through a couple more comments here. This one's from Hector Rodriguez, who says, "Don't mess with the country boy." Matt Kensley says, "The second I saw Grimes, I tuned it out, so I didn't even know who he wrestled. I thought he wrestled Duke because Duke was talking about how he beat Grimes." Oh man, good thing you're not reviewing this show. Okay, good thing you're not reviewing that show. That's happened to me a couple of times when I was watching Raw, where I'll be watching and then I'll tune out. And then I'm like, shit, I tuned out and I got to rewind, because if I don't rewind, then I won't know what happened. It's kind of like when you keep reading the same line over and over on a book that you're reading because you keep thinking about something else. That's happened to me a couple of times, but you get used to it. All right, let's move on. Triple threat match. We had LA Knight versus Sola Sakoa versus Grayson Waller. So this was pretty good. I kind of like this. Like, I was into this. And given the fact that I'm not the biggest LA Knight fan in terms of Sola Sakoa, obviously he's new. I argued that I thought his debut could have been a lot stronger. And then Grayson Waller, I've been a fan of his, even though they keep giving him a bunch of L's. He's probably been one of my favorite people that I've seen come up here on NXT. They just haven't necessarily given him anything. Like, they haven't given us a reason to really like him. I just like him because I like how he wrestles. I like that. I like his style. All right. But in terms of anything else, they really haven't given us much there either. But even so, with all these three guys, I was interested in this match because I was thinking, okay, these are obviously guys that we haven't seen all together wrestle before. So seeing them all together in this triple threat was pretty cool. Obviously, the intent of this is to get Sola Sakoa over. Sola Sakoa, this is, I think, his third match in NXT. So you want to see him be impressive. So I did like seeing Sakoa essentially clothesline both of these guys. I did like seeing both LA Knight and Grayson Waller essentially have to work with one another just to try to keep Sola Sakoa down and to outnumber him. And for a while, they are sort of working together to go up against him. But then obviously, they start to have a little bit of conflict there. They can't coexist. And so that doesn't happen. Then once again, it turns into every man for himself. And Sola Sakoa ends up getting the upper hand in this match. But afterwards, I didn't like the fact that the portion where you had LA Knight and Grayson Waller sort of not on the same page, I thought that it really slowed down the momentum of this match. I thought that whole thing, that whole setup of them trying to get on the same page and not being on the same page kind of took a little bit away from the match because it really just slowed things down. And I didn't think that Sola Sakoa got the upper hand fast enough. Like, it should have been a fast thing where, like, one second they're on the same page, the next second they're not, bam, that immediately costed them. And now Sola Sakoa is the one, getting the upper hand in this match. I thought it took too long for them essentially to lose being on the same page. Like, Sola Sakoa should have came right in and been like, bam, they blinked the wrong way. They looked the other way, and I took the opportunity. So I do think that, like, shift in momentum during this match could have been done a lot better and a lot faster. That's just my personal taste on that. Afterwards, we see Grayson. After this, once we see Sola Sakoa finally take over, we do get to see a nice combination of lots of different stuff that led to the finish. So we saw Grayson get LA Knight with several knees to the face. I like that. I like that he hit LA Knight with a stunner. Then we see Sola Sakoa toss over Grayson Waller over the top rope. And then Sola Sakoa goes to the top rope and he ends up doing a splash on LA Knight. And then afterwards, we end up seeing Sola Sakoa get the win here. And I'm kind of glad that he pinned LA Knight because I've been saying this and I just said it right now. I do think that Grayson Waller has taken enough L's. So I'm glad that he wasn't the one to get the pin in this match and that it was LA Knight. And obviously Sola Sakoa needed that win given that he is brand new to this roster here. And Jonathan Rendon with a random comment who says, I can see Denise as a Spice Girl fan. I only know like one Spice Girl song, which you would think I'd probably know all their songs, but I don't know. I really wasn't that big of a Spice Girl fan. It didn't really happen for me. I mean, other than, their song Wannabe, I don't really know like really any of their songs, which is kind of surprising actually. You would think I'd be a big Spice Girls fan. I wasn't. I missed the boat. Although my grandpa used to buy me Spice Girls gum. Yeah, do you guys know there was Spice Girls gum? Sure, you guys know that, but there used to be Spice Girls gum, and my grandpa used to buy it for me. So my biggest contribution to the Spice Girls fandom was buying and chewing their gum that they sold at my grocery store, and it came with a little sticker too. So that was about it. That was the extent of my Spice Girls fandom. We got a super chat from Chris Ludek. Thank you so much to Chris, who says, Denise, hope you're doing well. Thanks again for the photograph. You're welcome. Chris adds, if you had to sing one wrestler's theme for karaoke, who would it be? It's a very random question, but I would probably do like any Triple H song. Like that seems like a good karaoke for me, even though my vocals would probably hurt trying to do that type of voice, but I would definitely go with that. Or I would probably do the Rey Mysterio song. That one, that's pretty fun. There's so many. But thank you so much to Chris for sending in this super chat. Thank you very, very much. All right, here we go. Let's move on because after this, we get a quick backstage segment in which Tony D'Angelo gives Indy a dead fish, and he tells her to give it to Dexter Lumis, and who knows? Maybe Dexter Lumis is just a big fan of fish, and Tony D'Angelo is perhaps just being a nice guy and giving him some fish. All right, moving on. Electrolopis versus Erica Yann. This was a squash. I mean, Lopez stomps the hell out of her on her stomach, chokes her with her leg on the second rope. Lopez hits her with a suplex. Lopez gets the win. And here's one of those things where, like, I know we've been talking about the WWE releases, ever so often. And it's just crazy how, like, I don't know how long ago, maybe a couple of weeks ago, I was sitting here talking about Electrolopis versus B-Fab. And B-Fab was the person that was being pushed. B-Fab was the star. B-Fab was the one that we all knew they were pushing. And it was crazy to me watching right now Electrolopis in the ring. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, I don't know how to explain it. It was just so weird that like 1 second you're thinking this is the person that's going to be a star and they're building this person up. And then the next moment they're gone from the company. It's insane. Like given the fact that you're following these stories and then you see this happening, you're just like, dude, I can't predict anything anymore. I can't predict anything. But after she wins her match against Erica, she gets on the mic and she basically says that what La Madrina wants, La Madrina gets. And then she says that she wants Zion Quinn. And I started thinking to myself, what the hell does Zion Quinn have to do with any of this? And then I remembered that he did that dance and all of that crazy nonsense that happened last week on NXT. And then you have Elektra essentially kind of asking, she's impressed by Zion Quinn and she wants him to join Legado del Fantasma. And so Zion Quinn is flattered, but he says no. And Beth Phoenix puts over the sexual, she says, quote, there's a lot of sexual tension in this room. And so now it seems like we've been talking about how they've been doing a lot of like R-rated type of stuff on NXT 2.0. So it seems like this is going to be another element, maybe another upcoming love story between Zion Quinn and Electrolopis. So that's probably happening. But the big question, the big elephant in the room here right now is where the hell is Santos Escobar? Where is Santos Escobar? I don't know. I thought I missed something. I Googled, I Wikipedia'd, I Twittered, I checked the places, and I was like, what did I miss? Is he injured? Was there some sort of report that I didn't see? Where is Santos Escobar? I don't know. But here's my situation, and this is not good because we haven't seen... Okay, so Santos Escobar, please correct me, chat. But I recall, okay, so after he lost the title to Isaiah Swerve Scott and that night that Carmella won it, have we seen, because I know that was his last match, but have we seen Santos Escobar after that match? Because I feel like I remember him walking out with Electrolopis, but I don't remember if that was before or after he lost his bout. That's the one thing where I'm like, when is exactly the last time we saw Santos Escobar on TV? Like, I know his last match, but was his last match also the last time we saw him on TV? Like, I don't remember. Someone please correct me on here, because it worries me that we haven't seen Santos Escobar on TV, because if we're not seeing people on TV, it's not necessarily a good sign. And I feel bad for Santos Escobar because he did so good and he's been doing such a great job on NXT, but I just don't think that they see him as a big enough star to like move him up to the main roster or something like that, which is very, very unfortunate. But it is very sad that for a lot of talent, their ceiling is like right there, NXT 2.0. And I'm not exactly sure if Santos Escobar fits their idea of what they think they need to see, what kind of talent they need to see on NXT 2.0. So it is a little bit worrisome, because you're like, is this a bad sign? I don't know if it's a bad sign. I think it's a bad sign given everything that we've seen. I mean, come on, B-Fab literally got called up into the main roster and she lost her job. So it's like, now somebody's not being seen. Where the hell are they at? All right. We got a super chat from Nick Grasso. Thank you so much to Nick, who says, I have a feeling that Santos Escobar may get cut next because he hasn't been on TV since he lost the NXT North American title match. And it seems like they're making Electrolopis a new leader of Legado del Fantasma. And this is what I mean. Like, I don't want to say like, oh, I think this person's going to be cut. I don't want to say that, but it's it's one of those things where if you're seeing what's happening and you're putting two and two together, you can't help but to think that way. Like, you don't want to wish anybody to lose their job, okay? Even if they're unhappy, you don't want to wish anybody losing their job in a way that is not on their terms, right? And obviously, we do not know what's going on with Santos Escobar. We do not know. But do you guys remember, and I remember talking about this here on this show on one of these episodes, I remember talking about Frankie Monet and talking about how things weren't looking good for her in this new era of NXT 2.0. And this was literally something that I said based on what we had been seeing on the show, which was the fact that they didn't clearly know what to do with her. They weren't pushing her. She got the jobber entrance during her freaking NXT Women's Championship match against Raquel Gonzalez. And I was just like, okay, putting all of those pieces together, it's not looking too good for Frankie Monet. And then lo and behold, she was one of the names in the releases. And when I saw her name on that list, part of me was just like, Jesus Christ, how? It's freaking Taya Valkyrie and she's phenomenal. Then the other part of me that watches NXT was like, I saw this coming because I saw that they weren't doing anything with her on NXT 2.0. So it was just two like, different things, right? And that is why when I'm not seeing Santos Escobar on TV and I'm seeing that Legado del Fantasma and Electrolopis are, doing now their own thing, you can't help but to wonder. Also, here's the other question. Why did Electrolopis want Zion Quinn to join the group? Why? Are we replacing Santos Escobar? What is happening? We're looking for a fourth member? What is happening? I do not know. All right, chat, please help me out here. We kind of went through a lot of different stuff here. Okay, let me see if people had any updates on when's the last time we actually saw. Okay, nobody here is saying whether or not we saw Santos Escobar before or after that match that he had. I'm pretty sure. Oh, Jesus. Mike New York says Electra's holding Santos captive so she can't take over. Yeah, that would give her a lot of character depth. But okay. Zeno Hour says Pete Dunne disappeared around the same time. The last time multiple featured NXT talents disappeared for a few weeks was due to an outbreak. I don't know about that, actually, so I can't really say anything about that because I don't know. I'm not too sure about that. We got a super chat from Sheldon Jackson who says Santos Escobar was last seen on NXT October 19, having Wilde and Mendoza beat Kyle O'Reilly and Von Wagner. All right, thank you for that, because that's what because I remembered him doing something. I just couldn't remember exactly what. Okay, so it's been October 19th. All right, so maybe like what, 2-3 weeks since we've seen him? Either way, it doesn't make sense. Like, why wasn't he here tonight? Why was Electrolopis looking for a new member? Why does she want Zion Quinn? All right, we'll find out. Thank you so much to Sheldon Jackson for sending this in. I really appreciate that. Alrighty. War Games is returning Sunday, December 5th. We've kind of been talking a little bit about War Games, so good to know that War Games is returning Sunday, December 5th. We'll talk more about War Games once we have more information on War Games and who the teams are going to be, who the team captains are going to be, and all of that good stuff. But to close this on out, we had a main event between Carmella Hayes and Pete Dunne. This was a pretty decent match, guys. We saw Dunne work the fingers and the arms of Carmella Hayes. We saw Dexter Lumis appear on commentary during this, and he's scaring the hell out of Trick Williams. And in the end, we see Pete Dunne win. We see the incorporation of Johnny Gargano. For the most part, this was a fine main event. Pete Dunne gets the win. Good. Well, see, I want to say good because I'm a Pete Dunne fan, but then I'm thinking like, well, maybe Carmelo Hayes should have gotten the win because at the end of the day, he's the champion and you don't want to see your champion be losing. But whatever. I don't know if I'm really all that invested. I don't know. Either way, this was a perfectly fine main event. That's kind of about it, guys. That was NXT 2.0 for today. I will be back tomorrow to talk about AEW Dynamite. Once again, Thursday, I will be back to talk about AEW Full Gear predictions with none other than Lance Storm. So make sure you guys join for that. That's going to be a whole lot of fun. Additionally, if you haven't yet, make sure to head on over to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Denise Salcedo. I have an interview up there that I just uploaded with Juice Robinson, guys. I interviewed Juice Robinson. Additionally, I have interviews with Ruby Soho, Ricky Starks, Chelsea Green, so many different people, and those are just the recent interviews. There are tons more. There's a whole archive of interviews that you can check out and lots of other bonus content if you guys want to check it out. Additionally, I will be uploading videos from this weekend from AEW Full Gear onto that channel. So if you guys want to make sure you watch the media scrums and all of that stuff will be posted on there. Other than that, I want to thank you guys so much for coming into the show, and I will see you back next week again for NXT and tomorrow for Wednesday night Dynamite. Bye, everyone.